Is all the writing about this? Spit out my poisoned voice. Vivian starts to speak, but I stop her with a look that might freeze hell. Let me alone, I've seen enough. It was disgusting. I never thought Vivian would like anything other than social media or fancy labels. Yet my wife and I are unexpectedly drawn to horses. It started lightly. She casually mentioned a few weeks ago that Serafina had invited her to a stable. I didn't consider it then. Vivian and her friends always want the best. I figured it was a transient trend. She came home that night with a joie de vivre I hadn't seen in years. She kept gushing about the horses' muscular bodies and elegant movements. It was good to watch her so excited about something. She raved about dinner, Alexander. These creatures are incredible. I smiled at her passion. Honey, I'm glad you had fun. I had no idea this was just the beginning. For several days, horses were all we thought about. Vivian absorbed horse magazines and watched endless riding and care videos. She started doodling horses on notepads, something I hadn't seen her do since her artistic college days. At breakfast, she said, I'm thinking of taking riding lessons. You feel what? Still loving her new interest, I said. Go for it if it makes you happy. However, as weeks passed, I became more uneasy. Vivian visited the stable more. Every night she rushed out without looking at me. Visit the horses again? In a neutral tone, I asked. Don't delay, dear. She would leave, leaving me alone in our huge house. Not just her frequency bothered me. She'd arrive home peppy and flushed, smelling like leather and hay, and she'd go to her phone, giggling at Genevieve and Serafina's stable recaps. I kept thinking my unexpected enthusiasm for horses was deeper than it seemed. Vivian would distract me with stories about her favorite mare or her riding class progress whenever I tried to bring up the matter. As I drink my scotch in my study and hear Vivian's car leave the driveway again, I wonder what's going on at that stable. I was pacing around our spacious penthouse's living room at 7 p.m. on a cool Thursday in late October. I didn't enjoy the city lights outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. For the 1000th time, I checked my watch and realized Vivian was late. Once again, I heard heels clicking on the marble floor and the elevator dinging on time. Vivian confidently entered with excited eyes and flushed cheeks. I attempted impartiality when I said, You're home late. She removed her coat without looking at me. You know how I see. Time passes quickly in the stable. She radiated enthusiasm I hadn't seen in years as she headed to the kitchen. It should have excited me, but it made me queasy. I said, Vivian, we should talk following her. Already pouring herself a drink of wine. Regarding what, dear? About this horse obsession. You've talked and done it nonstop for weeks. Vivian turned to me, narrowing her emerald gaze. It's not obsession, Alexander. Enjoying my desire. I rubbed my hair in frustration. Your evening hobby? Is it your only thought? Her posture tensed when she drank wine. I didn't aware having interests outside this apartment required consent. I became aggressive by saying that's not what I meant and you know it. Hardly see each other anymore. You constantly leave early and return late. What's happening at that stable? Vivian, a flash appeared in her eyes, fear and guilt. It faded so swiftly that I wasn't sure. Nothing is going on, Alexander, she answered coldly. Enjoying gorgeous animals while learning to ride. Is it so impossible to see me enjoying something other than you and your world? She raved about dinner, Alexander. These creatures are incredible. I smiled at her passion. Honey, I'm glad you had fun. I had no idea this was just the beginning. For several days, horses were all we thought about. Vivian absorbed horse magazines and watched endless riding and care videos. She started doodling horses on notepads, something I hadn't seen her do since her artistic college days. At breakfast, she said, I'm thinking of taking riding lessons. You feel what? Still loving her new interest, I said. Go for it if it makes you happy. However, as weeks passed, I became more uneasy. Vivian visited the stable more. Every night, she rushed out without looking at me. Visit the horses again? In a neutral tone, I asked. Don't delay, dear. She would leave, leaving me alone in our huge house. Not just her frequency bothered me, but she'd arrive home peppy and flushed, smelling like leather and hay, and she'd go to her phone, giggling at Genevieve and Serafina's stable recaps. I kept thinking my unexpected enthusiasm for horses was deeper than it seemed. Vivian would distract me with stories about her favorite mare or her riding class progress whenever I tried to bring up the matter. As I drink my scotch in my study and hear Vivian's car leave the driveway again, I wonder what's going on at that stable. I was pacing around our spacious penthouse's living room at 7 p.m. on a cool Thursday in late October. I didn't enjoy the city lights outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. For the 1000th time, I checked my watch and realized Vivian was late. Once again, I heard heels clicking on the marble floor and the elevator dinging on time. Vivian confidently entered with excited eyes and flushed cheeks. I attempted impartiality when I said, You're home late. She removed her coat without looking at me. You know how I see. Time passes quickly in the stable. She radiated enthusiasm I hadn't seen in years as she headed to the kitchen. It should have excited me, but it made me queasy. I said, Vivienne, we should talk, following her. Already pouring herself a drink of wine. Regarding what, dear? About this horse obsession. You've talked and done it nonstop for weeks. Vivienne turned to me, narrowing her emerald gaze. It's not obsession, Alexander. Enjoying my desire. I rubbed my hair in frustration. Your evening hobby? Is it your only thought? Her posture tensed when she drank wine. I didn't know where having interests outside this apartment required consent. I became aggressive by saying that's not what I meant and you know it. Hardly see each other anymore. You constantly leave early and return late. What's happening at that stable? Vivienne, a flash appeared in her eyes. Fear and guilt. It faded so swiftly that I wasn't sure. Nothing is going on, Alexander, she remarked coldly. Enjoying gorgeous animals while learning to ride. Is it so hard to suppose I may enjoy something other than you or your world? She asked. But I persisted. Not the point. You've changed. You appear distant. Today you hardly touch me. You barely glance at me. Please notify me of any issues. Vivienne clinked her glass sharply and set it down. Your paranoia is the only mistake. Going to shower. I smelled something strange as she passed me, not her regular perfume. Smelled like hay and leather. I grew suspicious as she left down the corridor. Something was wrong, and I wanted to know why. I talked to Sebastian during the charity event to learn more about this peculiar situation. Walking across the full ballroom, I saw him behind the bar, looking apprehensive like me. Sebastian, how are you? Welcomed him with a fake smile. He turned, startled. Alexander, I may be okay. Say what? I whispered softly. Really, I had a question. Have you noticed anything odd about Serafina? Sebastian leant in after a worried look around. You too? It seemed I was going crazy. Serafina acts strangely. She talks about horses all day at that dreaded barn. She appears entirely transformed, stomach dropped out. Similarly, Vivienne runs to the stable, returns late, and seems aloof. Sebastian responded, exactly, and lowered his voice yet again. Interpreting it is unclear. Horses angered Serafina. It has her full attention. A cold sweat appeared on my skin. The result exceeded my expectations. Have you approached her? I asked. Sebastian headshaked. She rejects me as too suspicious, but I know something's up. My mind raced as I crossed the room after thanking Sebastian. I needed more info. Maximilian looked abnormally concerned by the windows. I went to Maximilian after saying that. Is everything okay? His charisma was gone as he faced me. No, Alexander. My name is Genevieve. Lately different. Falling heart. Living at the stable all the time. Maximilian widened his eyes. How did you know? Vivienne and Serafina are the same, I whispered. Dedicated to horses, always at the stable, aloof. Maximilian paled. Alexander, what the hell is up? Shaking my head, I felt dread. I don't know what's wrong. Spouses are hiding something. Everything is tied to that stable. The realization weighed on us as we stared at each other uneasily. Whatever was going on at that stable affected all of our women, and I wanted to know. As the sun set, I painted the sky pink and orange from the window. At 7:30 p.m., Vivienne was still absent. Sighing, I combed my hair. This was our new normal after 2 weeks. Front door opening jolted me out of my trance. I noticed Vivienne enter with enthusiasm and rosy cheeks. Hello, I said, trying not to be serious. How was your day? Vivienne answered, oh, you know, the usual, and looked away. I noticed dirt on the hem of her expensive white blouse. Pointing to the stain, I said. Her eyes caught a spark when she looked down. Was it shame? Face crossed. Oh, I may have hit something at the stable. Not much trouble. I thought she was changing in our bedroom. She emerged a few minutes later with wet hair after her short shower. She passed me and I smelled something familiar. Hi there. She smelled like stables after showering. I felt a knot in my stomach. Vivienne. Can we talk about horses? She looked at me cautiously. How about it? Just that you've gone to the stables a lot. I hardly see you anymore. Are things in order? I didn't recognize Vivienne's pleasant smile. Her eyes shone. I was bothered by its oddity. Oh, Alexander, she whispered dreamily. You couldn't understand. Horses are amazing. I feel closer to them. I think they understand me better than most. Her words made me shiver. I found her horse description oddly personal and passionate. My skin crawled. Trying to hide my alarm. Apathy filled Vivienne's eyes. They are free and strong. I feel free to be myself with you. It's hard to explain. I can't explain it. Vivienne, I'm glad you found your passion, but isn't this too much? Her gaze suddenly focused on me. Too much? Your understanding is lacking, Alexander. Not a hobby, this is everything. She spoke with surprising vigor. She left before I could respond, leaving me even more confused and anxious. As I saw her disappear inside her study, I could see there was more to her equestrian love, so I had to know more. I phoned Sebastian and Maximilian to my study. I was sick of this with our wives and needed to share notes. As we sipped our drinks on the leather couches, a tense hush fell over us. Cleared my throat. Men, I suppose we know why we're here. Sebastian nodded, his usually joyful visage troubled. The situation worsens. I rarely hear from Serafina. When not at the stable, she acts aloof. Max sipped his scotch slowly. Genevieve, too. She smells like hay and horses at home. She retreats when I touch her. Vivienne is the same, I muttered, straining. This fixation, it's not normal. We looked at each other, contemplating. She seems odd. Sebastian said it first. Do you believe there might be another person at the stable? I sighed. I considered that, but it doesn't work. The constant presence and secrecy. Something else is happening. Maximilian murmured gently but leant in. What if? How about anything instead of someone? I frowned. What do you mean? After pausing, he proceeded. Equines. They constantly discuss horses. What if? What happens if something goes wrong? I felt hit in the gut. The parts were coming together in a way that made my skin crawl. But I just wanted to laugh and tell Maximilian he was being silly. That is insane. Sebastian stumbled, yet his eyes were doubtful. I breathed deeply to center myself. I hate to admit it, but anything is possible. We must know what's happening at that stable. Yes, I concur. We must closely monitor this. Watch them if needed. Sebastian asked, whispering, and if our suspicions are confirmed, I made eye contact. We then take any necessary action to end this madness. Friday, 11:42 p.m. We stop a good distance from the stable, the tires crunching quietly on the gravel road, and kill the headlights with the moon barely visible. Dark enough for no one to see us arriving. Like mentioned, we silently exit our autos without speaking. We breathe harder in the quiet night. I watch Sebastian and Maximilian, tensing my jaw with each step. My stomach gets colder as we draw closer, like something festering. How can we find anything? Maximilian mutters under his breath, his face barely visible in the low light, with one hand in his pocket and the other gripping his phone like a lifeline. His nerves are visible. I add quietly, if we keep talking, we're not going to find shit. He stops talking. Infiltrate closer. The stable stood like a horrible secret waiting to be revealed. The faint sounds reach us first. Happy, light, and laughing. It's apparent. Vivienne's laugh combined with others. Content she is, they're happy. Not sure if that helps or hurts, but my gut tightens. Sebastian nudges me with a chin twitch towards the stable. That window. We search that area. Run over. I didn't like the sound of the dirt crunching under our shoes, but we moved to the side without any issue. Cracked. Window. An old wooden object that should have been replaced years ago. Right now it's perfect. Women, occasional snorts, and restless horses are already audible. Breathing quickly, I glance through. They are inside. Vivienne. Serafina. Genevieve. Every single one. They appear carefree as their riding clothes hang half off, skin flushed, an unidentified buzz. The oddest part? They're thrilled. Their enthusiasm was almost insane, delicate movements and unfamiliar looks. I've never seen Vivienne touch a horse so close, slow, like she's playing. Again, this twists my gut. She strokes the horse's neck and whispers in its ear. Does she say fuck? Sebastian's murmur is gruff, and his expression shows he doesn't like the surroundings. Nothing makes sense anymore as I watch my wife's lips skim the horse's ear. I wonder if she's nuts. Maximilian murmurs, they're not acting normal. Am I alone in feeling off? Truer than false. I react, but the women stand. Vivienne signals for the other person to follow her into the stable while removing her hand from the horse. A change in atmosphere. It's quieter, yet the weird intensity remains. I feel uneasy when they grab a horse and circle its body. Too near wrong. After then, they vanish, fading from view as they lead the animal to its next destination, leaving us to look after them in doubt about what to do. My pulse raced as I approached the stable entrance. Maximilian and Sebastian stood beside me, their faces mirroring my resolve and terror. As we approached the entryway, my foot caught something soft. I lowered my gaze. I felt cold. A heap of women's garments lay on the ground. My shaky hands stroked the scarf I gave Vivienne for Christmas as I crouched down. Silk felt awful on my skin. Sebastian muttered, Christ, barely hearable. Maximilian gasped as he held up Serafina's favorite top. Anything Genevieve owned was also found. We stared at each other, terrified by what this signified. We were all hesitant to discuss our thoughts. Their effects were too strange and weird to consider. My emotions threatened to overwhelm me as I tightened Vivienne's scarf. Anger, betrayal, confusion, and a constant fear of the stability. I clutched the fabric and took a deep breath. We must enter, I said, my voice foreign to me. Sebastian grimaced and said, Whatever's happening, we need to know he was cold instead of charming. Maximilian stared carefully at the stable door, his face frozen in wrath. A final, threatening glare of resolution preceded our exit. We prepared for whatever evil was inside. I charge into the stable, heart racing, terrified and determined. Behind me, Sebastian and Maximilian's expressions match my somber resolve. We rushed in, the great wooden door crashing against the wall, our breathing heaving. Vivienne, Serafina, and Genevieve are gathered like a deer in headlights. Remorse and dismay cover their faces. I look around. No horses are visible, only scruffy, guilty ladies. Strange stuff. Though, no horses, no odd situation as expected. Instead, a person emerges from the darkness, stopping my heart. Damn horse trainer Dante. Everything fits immediately. Late nights, concealment, stable worries. He was always the focus, never the horses. So all the biking was for this. Spit out my poisoned voice. Vivienne starts to speak, but I stop her with a look that might freeze hell. Let me alone, I've seen enough. Maximilian and Sebastian understand soon. Sebastian turns to Serafina, furious. You filthy liar, he shouts. Maximilian stares at Genevieve, betrayed and disgusted. No way will I let slimy Dante get away with it. Rage fills me as I face him. I yell, get the hell out of here, you're done. I mean completed. I hastily snap a few photos with my phone. The sound makes Vivienne cringe, but I don't care. This is enough, I mutter. Probably more than anyone else. I give up and turn around without speaking. As they echo in the horrified silence, my every stride feels like another nail in my marriage's coffin. Maximilian and Sebastian lag behind, their wrath palpable. I continue without turning. I'm over Vivienne, lying and betrayal. I inhale deeply and let the rage wash over me as we step outdoors into the cool night air. Definitely not over. I'll let them stew in fear and disgrace for now. Real consequences begin tomorrow. The next morning I woke up. Early, my mind racing with tasks. It felt empty without Vivienne in the bedroom. Good, I wouldn't have to deal with her this morning. I called my lawyer. It's John Alexander. I need divorce proceedings started immediately. I mean now. The caller paused. Alexander, you probably want things handled quietly. Deliberation is key, but speed is essential. I need this done quickly and neatly. John, ensure that she obtains only what she contributed to this marriage. Recognized. In an hour, I'll finish the papers. Can you prove your claims? My stable photos sprang to mind. Yes, I do. I'll send soon. I hung up and slowly reviewed our joint accounts at my workstation. Vivienne's access to our joint account was removed with a few clicks. Though chilly and calculated, it felt necessary. I heard a phone buzz. Sebastian was. Just filed, Alex. No longer available, Seraphine. How are you? I replied, startled at my calm voice. I'm fine, just hung up with my attorney. The blow won't register with Vivienne. Max follows suit, great. You can join us for lunch later. After agreeing, I hung up. I started deleting Vivienne from my life again on my computer. Pictures deleted, social media accounts closed, and items packed for delivery. At lunchtime, I learned Dante was released from the stable. The news of his infraction traveled quickly in our social circles, ruining his reputation. Goodbye. We had lunch at our usual private club with Sebastian and Maximilian. Though gloomy. The atmosphere was terribly persistent. I raised my glass to new beginnings, gentlemen. Max nodded and applauded justice. Sebastian was pale but determined. I never thought this would happen. But here we are. We discussed lawyers, tactics, and goals for an hour. Clearly, we wouldn't retreat. Our spouses would now face the consequences of their choices. Vivienne texted me on my phone as we finished. I showed it to everyone without speaking. Please discuss, Alex. Night before, what happened? It's not your views. Please allow me to clarify. Sebastian snorted, perhaps explaining what we had seen. I ignored and deleted the message. Later, my attorney will contact her. Throughout the day, our social connections sent reports. Their actions were already affecting Genevieve, Serafina, and Vivienne. They lost friends, gossip followed them, and invitations were cancelled. Strong, righteous feelings filled me. Betrayal was no longer the focus. It was about world order. They learned the hard way that their deeds have consequences. I was back home by nightfall, drinking scotch in my study. The house felt empty yet cleaner, like a festering wound had finally punctured. My cell phone rang again. I was represented by John. Alexander, I submitted the paperwork. Vivienne gets it. She asked to meet, but I advised against it. Want to go which way? While sipping scotch, I thought, no chats, no meetings. John, she decided. Our goal is to make this quick and easy, for me. Recognized. I will notify you of changes. My shoulders felt lighter after hanging up. Decision made. The wheels turned. Of course it hurts. But I was sure I chose the right bonus. I stood up and looked out the window at the city lights. A new, honest chapter without Vivian was about to begin. Starting afresh and moving on was necessary. I was ready too. I prepared too. Hi everyone, if you like this story and want more silly ones, click like, and receive weekly updates on outstanding stories. Enable alerts to avoid missing updates. Leave comments if you have wild stories or ideas to explore. I'd love hearing them. Thanks for looking.